Hello, I'm Sonja Petek, a survey project manager for the PPIC Statewide Survey. Today I'd like to talk about Californians' attitudes toward climate change, and I hope to answer three basic questions. Do Californians think climate change is real? How concerned are they about it? And what do they think should be done? Now, before I begin, I'd like to provide some information about the PPIC Statewide Survey. The survey was started in 1998 and is conducted at regular intervals with California adults. Interviews are conducted by telephone, both landline phones and cell phones, and in multiple languages. Since 2000, we've conducted an annual survey each summer on environmental issues, including climate change, which brings me back to our original questions. Do Californians think climate change is real? Do they believe the science? The short answer is yes. In our July 2012 survey, nearly 8 in 10 Californians said the world's temperature had probably been increasing over the past 100 years. And there was widespread agreement with majorities across regions, across racial and ethnic, age, education, and income groups holding this view. Although there were some differences across parties, majorities of Democratic, Republican, and Independent voters said the Earth's temperature was probably on the rise. When asked another way, we have found majorities of Californians saying the effects of global warming have already begun to happen. And others believe the effects will happen at some point in the future. Really, only about 1 in 10 Californians are true non-believers saying the effects of global warming will never happen. As the most recent recession took hold, there was a slight decline in the share of Californians saying the effects of global warming had already begun to happen, but still majorities held this view. However, an underlying theme, and one that emerges when we look at certain state policies, is the growing political polarization of this issue. While the share of Democrats believing the effects of global warming have already begun has increased since 2005, the share of Republicans holding this view has dropped to 33%. Question number 2. So Californians think global warming is happening, but how concerned are they about it? Although Californians do not view global warming in the same way that they view other problems facing the state, such as unemployment, the economy, or the state budget situation, strong majorities of Californians believe global warming poses a very serious or somewhat serious threat to the state's future economy and quality of life. But there are some important differences worth highlighting. Studies have shown that the effects of global warming will disproportionately affect the state's lower-income population and communities of color because they may lack the resources to adapt or because pre-existing health or living conditions may be exacerbated. In our survey, the percentage saying global warming poses a very serious threat is higher among African Americans and Latinos than among Asians and whites, and this view declines with rising income levels. Californians also express concerns about some of the effects of global warming that would particularly hurt California. Majorities are at least somewhat concerned that global warming will result in wildfires and droughts that are more severe, and in increased air pollution and flooding. And finally, to answer our third question, what do Californians think should be done? An overwhelming 73% of Californians say steps should be taken right away to counter the effects of global warming, and more than half say the state should act now on its plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions rather than waiting for the state's economy and job situation to improve. But let's take a closer look at some of the specifics. California has been a leader in the area of climate change legislation, particularly with the passage of Assembly Bill 32, which seeks to roll back greenhouse gas emissions to 1990 levels by the year 2020. 7 in 10 Californians support this goal, and support has been fairly consistent over time. But the increased political polarization is again evident. In 2006, there was surprising agreement with 2 in 3 Californians and voters across parties saying they supported AB 32. There is now a very wide partisan divide. And let's break down some of the findings among other important groups. At least 3 in 4 African Americans, Latinos, and Asians favor AB 32, compared with 61% of whites. And the share in support of AB 32 is higher among the state's 18 to 34-year-olds and among those with household incomes under $80,000. Strong majorities of Californians also support other policies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. They include requiring increased efficiency in commercial and residential buildings and appliances, requiring industrial plants, oil refineries, and commercial facilities to reduce their emissions, changing local land use planning to reduce miles driven, requiring automakers to further reduce emissions from new cars, and requiring a reduction in the carbon intensity of transportation fuels. President Obama highlighted climate change in his second inaugural address. In our March 2013 survey, Californians said that legislation on climate change was less essential than legislation on the budget deficit, on gun policies, or on immigration. But still, 73% said the government should regulate the release of greenhouse gas emissions from sources like power plants, cars, and factories. And 65% favored new federal government policies to address climate change. Now, if you'd like more information, I'd encourage you to visit our website, where you can download all of the environment survey reports and run your own findings using our interactive survey tools. Thank you for listening.